He went from being the biggest star on the planet to basically vanishing into thin air. If you grew up watching High School Musical or caught him in Baywatch, you're probably wondering the same thing. Whatever happened to Zac Efron? Let's be real. Zac was once the most sought-after A-lister in Hollywood. But nowadays, he's MIA. What's he up to? Why did the movie roles suddenly dry up? We're diving into all of that today. We'll look at those dark rumors, everything from secret rehab stints for substance abuse to those wild conspiracy theories about him being replaced by the Hollywood elite. It all kicked off back in 2006. At just 18 years old, Zac landed the breakout role that would launch his career into the stratosphere and define him for the rest of his life. He played Troy Bolton, the popular captain of the basketball team and, honestly, one of the most handsome guys to ever grace the screen. The story behind those movies actually had some layers to it. As the star athlete, Troy ended up falling for the brainy girl, which was a total social nightmare that his teammates just couldn't wrap their heads around. But there was a twist. Troy wasn't just falling for Gabriella. He was discovering a secret passion for singing and dancing. Naturally, his teammates were beyond disappointed by the whole thing. What started as just another teen flick quickly exploded into a global phenomenon unlike anything we'd ever seen before. The awards and the fame hit him all at once the second the first High School Musical dropped. Because it was such a massive hit, the sequels were greenlit almost immediately. High School Musical 2 and 3 arrived with bigger budgets and production value that blew everyone away. The final chapter even hit the big screen, ending the trilogy on a high note as a defining series for an entire generation. While the characters in the movies were busy deciding their futures, the real Zac had a massive choice of his own to make. Once the franchise wrapped, many critics assumed Zac had already peaked. They figured he'd just fade away, joining the long list of forgotten teen idols. But Zac had a different playbook. He wanted to shed that teen heartthrob image, leaving Troy Bolton behind to prove he belonged among the acting elite. In 2009, he starred as Mike O'Donnell in 17 Again. He played a guy facing a messy divorce who somehow wakes up as a 17-year-old again. Even though the movie still felt a bit youthful, it was the perfect first step toward distancing himself from his Disney past and reinventing his career. By 2010, Zac took on the role of Charlie in Charlie Street Cloud. He played a young man shattered by his brother's death, living a life caught between reality and the afterlife. It was our first real look at him tackling deep, introspective grief. While the film wasn't exactly a blockbuster, it signaled a major shift in his trajectory. Zac was proving there was real depth behind that famous smile, following up with projects like The Lucky One and The Paperboy. Then, in 2013, he hit a massive turning point with the movie Neighbors. Playing Teddy Sanders, a fraternity president at war with his new parent neighbors, Zac showed us something different. It wasn't just about the parties and the shouting. He looked totally at home in rated comedy, funny, edgy, and even willing to poke fun at himself. After years of trying to escape the Disney shadow, this role felt like a breath of fresh air, and he nailed it. But looks can be deceiving. Despite the skyrocketing success, Zac was actually spiraling into one of the darkest chapters of his entire life. For years, the name Zac Efron meant pure gold. He had the million-dollar smile, the magnetic charm, and a fan base that spanned the globe. On paper, he had it all: the fame, the money, and the power. But as his star rose, so did the scrutiny. The pressure became suffocating, and the expectations were impossible to meet. Everyone was watching, judging every move, forcing him to keep up this perfect facade, even when he felt completely alone. The constant need to be perfect triggered massive anxiety. Eventually, he started looking for a way out, a dangerous escape that began with drinking and escalated to drugs. He later admitted he was hitting the bottle hard. It wasn't about being a party animal. It was a desperate attempt to just shut his brain off for a while. He turned to MDMA and anything else that could numb the noise in his head. By the end of 2013, the wheels fell off, and Zac checked himself into rehab. It was a brutal, private battle. To the public, he was still the golden boy, but behind the scenes, he was attending Alcoholics Anonymous and learning to stop obsessing over his image and what people thought of him. What's truly wild is that through all that inner turmoil, he never stopped working. Somehow, his lowest point didn't end his career, it transformed it. He finally felt free from the weight of expectations, answering only to himself. After getting back on his feet and following the success of Neighbors, he doubled down with That Awkward Moment. He shared the screen with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan in a sharp romantic comedy. The plot follows three buddies who swear off serious relationships, only to find themselves hilariously caught up in the very romance they were trying to avoid. Next came We Are Your Friends, where he played Cole Carter, a struggling DJ in his 20s trying to make it big in the electronic music scene. He was just a kid with massive dreams, caught between his ambitions and the harsh reality of the world. Since the first one was a hit, Neighbors 2 followed. This time, a retired Teddy Sanders teams up with his old rivals to take down a wild new sorority next door. He kept the momentum going with Dirty Grandpa and The Disaster Artist. Then came the movie everyone remembers, the big screen reboot of the classic 90s show Baywatch. It was a mix of high-octane action and self-aware comedy that poked fun at how over-the-top the original series used to be. Zac played Matt Brody, a washed-up Olympic swimmer who joins the lifeguard squad led by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It was a massive box office hit. The role required an insane level of physical training, which Zac shared all over social media and in various interviews. His body transformation went viral instantly, cementing his status as a full-blown Hollywood action star. But while fans were impressed, some started asking hard questions about how he actually achieved that look. People were skeptical. They wondered if it was all natural, clever CGI, or if he'd been using performance-enhancing drugs to get that shredded. Zac didn't shy away from the rumors. He admitted that for those shirtless scenes, he'd go days without drinking a single drop of water just to look as lean as possible. Years later, he warned fans that his Baywatch physique wasn't healthy or sustainable. He called the process a total nightmare. Still, after that movie, he was officially back on top of the world. It felt like the Troy Bolton from 2006 had returned, only more mature and physically imposing. Everyone expected him to stay in the spotlight, but the reality was quite different. That same year, he appeared in The Greatest Showman, a massive musical project alongside Hugh Jackman. Inspired by the life of P.T. Barnum, the movie was a vibrant celebration of outcasts and big dreams, backed by an incredible soundtrack. But shortly after that, Zac just vanished. It was like he ghosted the entire industry. Naturally, the fans started getting worried. Did he fall back into old habits? Was he done with the fame? Did he just quit for good? Little did anyone know, he would stay off the grid for nearly 3 more years. 3 whole years passed without a single update, a leaked photo, or even a whisper of his whereabouts. It felt like someone was intentionally keeping him hidden from the public eye. Then 2021 rolled around, and Zac Efron finally resurfaced, though he was not exactly the guy everyone remembered. He popped up in a promotional clip for an Earth Day charity event, but his message took a backseat to his appearance. His face looked unrecognizable with a massive jawline and swollen lips, giving him a plastic expression that made him look like a total stranger. The video exploded across the internet, sparking instant rumors that the real Zac Efron had been replaced by an imposter. Social media blew up with wild theories and desperate guesses as everyone asked the same burning question. What on earth happened to him? Between his new face and old gossip about his unnatural physique, a massive conspiracy theory took hold that many fans still believe today, that Zac Efron was actually replaced. Following the release of Baywatch, the public scrutiny of his body became relentless, hitting him right where it hurt most. This pressure reportedly triggered a relapse into substance abuse, which is not shocking given his history, because we have seen him spiral after major career peaks before. Huge fame brings a sea of praise, but it also invites a tidal wave of crushing criticism. Following a severe downward spiral, Zac went into hiding to fight his demons in total isolation. Unfortunately, one dark night, he hit a breaking point and turned back to the substances he used to numb the pain. But his old coping mechanisms were no longer cutting it. He kept upping the dosage to drown out the hurt until his body simply could not take the strain anymore. Reports suggest he suffered a major overdose. With his career at an all-time high, the industry could not afford to lose their golden boy, whose face was a multi-million-dollar asset. Supposedly, Hollywood's elite stepped in to cover it up. Conspiracy theorists began hunting for proof, pointing out shifts in his smile, his voice, his movements, and even a new hollowness in his eyes. That old boyish charm seemed gone, replaced by something cold and stiff. Fans spent hours side by side comparing 2007 interviews with his most recent footage. Every blink and hesitation was scrutinized under a microscope. So, is it an open and shut case? Not exactly. since it is all just wild internet speculation. So, what really happened to his face? Let's dive into the facts. By 22, Zac finally shut down the rumors and came clean about the real reason behind his transformation. While everyone thought he had vanished during the pandemic, he was actually laying low in Australia. He was training hard, but also embracing a much slower pace of life, far from the chaotic Hollywood machine. One day, he was running through his house when he slipped, lost his footing, and slammed his face directly into the jagged corner of a granite fountain. The impact was brutal, completely shattering his jaw in a way that would require extensive medical intervention. His jawbone was snapped in multiple places, forcing an emergency surgery where doctors had to wire his mouth shut to hold everything in place while it healed. The break itself was not the only issue. As he recovered, his appearance began to shift due to a physical side effect that most people totally missed. His masseter muscles, the ones used for chewing, started working overtime to compensate for the injury. They grew disproportionately large from the strain, just like a muscle does when it is overtrained at the gym. His facial structure literally evolved as a biological response. It was not plastic surgery, it was a physiological shift. Zac even mentioned he was seeing a specialist to manage the muscle growth. He took a brief break from his physical therapy, causing those muscles to swell up right as he stepped back into the spotlight, which fueled the fire of public speculation. When asked why he did not clear the air sooner, he admitted he had no clue people were talking. He stays off social media entirely, and only heard about the drama when his mum mentioned it. It sounds wild, but we have to remember he rose to fame in 2006, back before the modern era of constant digital connectivity. He ditched social media to protect his mental health from his own insecurities, which explains why he is so disconnected from the online noise. That is the real story behind his new look. But fans still have questions. Where is he living now? What is he up to? And why did he stop making big movies? Let's take a closer look at his new life. For years, Zac pushed himself past his physical and mental limits, jumping from one demanding role to the next. He lived in Los Angeles his whole life, not out of love for the city, but out of professional obligation. The city was a grind of auditions, film sets, and paparazzi cameras. So, in 2020, he packed up and moved to Australia on a whim to escape the madness. What started as a temporary getaway quickly became his permanent home. Australia offered him everything Hollywood lacked: silence, the ocean, and actual peace of mind. He found sanctuary in Byron Bay, a quiet beach town where he could catch waves at dawn and grab coffee without being swarmed by fans or harassed for selfies. He has gone on record saying that is where he finally felt alive again. He reconnected with nature and prioritized his mental health, finding the balance that he had lost in the Hollywood shuffle. Post-Baywatch, his perspective shifted. He stopped chasing blockbusters and started hunting for stories with soul, which led him to star in The Iron Claw in 2023. He completely vanished into the role of Kevin Von Erich, the heart of a wrestling dynasty plagued by unimaginable tragedy. His commitment to the part was absolutely intense. Zac bulked up significantly, transforming his physique into a powerhouse of muscle. This was not about looking pretty for the camera, it was about honoring the character's legacy, and the critics noticed. We had never seen this side of him before, raw, vulnerable, and heartbreakingly real. He let his emotions do the talking without needing a single word of dialogue. That film proved he was not just a heartthrob anymore, he was a powerhouse actor. Meanwhile, off-camera, he started venturing down some very different paths. He produced and starred in Down to Earth, a docuseries centered on wellness, sustainability, and finding more meaningful ways to live. This was not just a celebrity trend. It was a window into the man he has become: curious, grounded, and focused on things bigger than himself. He has even started backing businesses focused on health and the environment. You will not find his name on cheap colognes or burger joints. He has also kept his dating life low-key, including his surprise romance with Australian model Vanessa Valladares. She was working as a waitress when they met. They dated for nearly a year, and even lived together before eventually deciding to go their separate ways. Since the breakup, he has been doubling down on self-care and inner peace. Sure, he has been spotted on a few dates, but he is keeping his private life strictly private. He might not be singing in high school hallways or flexing for the paparazzi anymore, but he still manages to shock the world. The difference is, he is finally living on his own terms. Case closed, right? Well, maybe not quite. Despite the logical explanation, plenty of fans still cling to the theory that the real Zac is gone. Do you buy the accident story, or is something more sinister going on?